And sometimes there's songs that are so like, I don't know, that just take you out of that, and those are amazing. My daughter loves right now, she's really into Michael Jackson, and it's been fascinating to like re-listen to that. She's
That's
4, and every
cool.
time we get in the car, she's like, "Beat it, let's go!"
This podcast is about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new single and how you got to where you are now.
Dude, amazing, fantastic.
Sweet. Born in LA, but raised on the East Coast. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so I was born in Los Angeles. My dad is a mom and dad were both songwriters, so I kind of grew up around that. My dad was trying to figure out his lane. So he was Los Angeles, then he moved to Nashville to chase it, and then he moved to New York. And eventually, he was in a group called the Limelighters, which is like a folk group. And so
Okay.
I grew up like backstage at all these folk concerts. And then eventually he transitioned into children's music, which was his real passion, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I read
But
that. So were you real young when he was doing the children's songwriting thing?
yeah, I mean, when I was really young, he was still doing the folk singer thing, which is kind of cool. I've slowly understood that it definitely inspired, it gave me like a baseline for where melodies are supposed to go for
Mm-hmm.
me. And then I kind of push off those when I'm writing music now. But I do have like there's a way it's supposed to go in my head. I don't know if other writers, I'm sure everybody has that. It's like it's supposed to go here, and then to make it interesting, let's not do that. Let's take it over here. But that's because just like growing up backstage around people singing all the time or all these kind of old folk songs.
Wow. And would you see him perform like growing up as a kid?
Yeah, totally. And we saw there was a transition period that I remember too, where we'd see the Limelighter shows, and then from there, the day shows would be the kids shows, and those are very, very different, and they were great.
Sure. I've
Yeah.
interviewed a handful of children's musicians, and they talk about how you get to play a show at noon, and be done.
Oh my God. Yeah, as you get older, that's really funny. You
Yeah.
get to like you're done by 3. What do you want to
Right.
do? I don't even. That's really funny. It is weird right now because I have 2 kids, so I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it's
Oh,
just
congratulations.
mayhem at my house right
Oh, I
now.
can't imagine. I have a
Like
5-year-old. It's a
it's
lot.
ridiculous. And so we just started getting back to playing some shows, and it's really funny because the show, like my shows usually don't start till 9 or 10, but at home, I mean, my kids wake up at 5 a.m. So by like 7 p.m., I'm pretty much toast. And
Right.
doing the thing like the weekend warrior game where you jump out and having a coffee, like a nitro cold brew at 8:30 to be like, let's go, dude. Let's go. They didn't come to see a dad. They came to see like some rock star. Let's ride. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Great.
okay. Growing up in a musical household, what was the first instrument you learned how to play?
I what did I learn? I learned the trumpet first in band in school. Like I really loved being a part of all that. Just the feeling of like harmony occurring and playing one note in the mix. And there was always a piano in my living room, and I would sit down and kind of mess with it. And there was a guitar around, and I was always just way more interested in song than anything else.
Okay.
So like Gearhead never have been. My favorite guitar is the Baby Taylor because it's so easy to write a song on.
Hmm.
I enjoy it. I'm not against it, but it's always been like I remember picking up a guitar before I knew how to play it and just like hitting the low note and trying to write a song immediately with just the low note. It was always about how do
Oh.
we use this thing to put words to it to like get you to feel something. It was never like what's the pentatonic scale? Like
Oh,
I
sure. Or
yeah.
even like, I want to learn this song from whatever artist.
Yeah, okay, so that came around 16, 17. I started to get super into Room for Squares. Just guitar wise,
Hmm.
that was so much cooler than anything else that was happening for me at the moment. That was like he was my gateway drug into cool chords and jazz
Okay.
chords and all the like No Such Thing starts like way up on the top of the neck, and it's this really interesting thing. It's got like nines, and it was so cool. So I did dive hard into John Mayer, um, and then Paul Simon and Billy Joel, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Very
yeah.
cool. And when did you start? You said you started writing songs almost immediately. When did you start a band, or was it always kind of just doing it on your own?
I didn't really try bands. That never super worked for me. I did around 16, 17, I made my first like little demos, and they were pretty bad. And then And I was mostly a jock, to be honest. Like
Okay.
only really cared about basketball in high school, and then started like whatever was left in the day, I would try to learn tabs, you know,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I
on
remember
the
tabs.
the internet tab
Ultimate
thing.
Guitar Tab or whatever that one website was. It had like 9 versions of every song because
Oh
almost
my
all of them were wrong.
God. Yeah. There's nothing more like more of a bummer than to spend a lot of time to figure out how to play a tab of a song and be like, oh, this is just terribly wrong. This isn't even close.
Right. Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes in, like, oh no. It's not that I'm not, yeah, this is just wrong.
I'm
Um,
so envious of now that with YouTube, kids can just go on there and watch some pro teach you how to play it exactly.
Figure
You're
it
like,
out.
oh, okay, that took me 5
Yeah,
minutes.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, so there was a lot of that, a lot of just time alone in my room. And then, when I got into college, there was a lot of just writing out like all the One Republic songs and all the songs that
Mhm.
Ryan Tedder had written, like writing out the form of them and like
Oh,
really
interesting.
studying why did you jump so fast in the pre to the hook and why does it feel like it's taking off more? And then why, like, there was a lot of that, like actually like notebooks of just writing out all the songs and the song forms to figure
Mhm.
out the dynamics of why things are working the way they are.
That's such a different mindset than I would imagine most people when they come to writing, like thinking about like breaking down the songs like that. Do you feel like it's because you grew up kind of around your parents that are songwriters? Did they influence
Yeah,
that at all, do you
maybe
think?
this idea that it's like half um like wild magic inspiration that no one can really control.
Mhm.
There's definitely that. And then the other full half is just technique and craft and understanding and not tricks, but like understanding the flow of something and what's the most important part and what's the hierarchy of the message and the way it comes, like the way the word rolls off your tongue. All that stuff was talked about and discussed at the dinner table when I was growing up,
That's interesting.
which is
And
so lucky. Like, I just took it, like super take it for granted. And, I don't know for you, sometimes you look back through like at your history and you're like, oh yeah, like it's not crazy that I became a songwriter. This is like what we were doing.
right,
Talking
right.
about like, oh, that's a cool lyric, but it's probably not the one you want to use in the hook because it's like a little bit interesting, awkward, and you want it to be a little bit, all those discussions were just kind of like around me, and I just grew up in them. And
That's
then
so
when I
cool.
started writing for myself and really going after it, there was just this like real understanding. I don't know from where exactly that you just have to write 100, and
Mhm.
then like a bunch of like it was I forget his name. Shoot, is it Rhett Atkins? I don't remember. I did a session with a country writer who had 20 number ones. I gotta remember his name. I'm a bad songwriting student for not knowing his name. Shoot, I can't remember his name. COVID brain.
All
Anyway,
good.
I was like, hey man, what do you know that I don't know? Like you have 20 number one songs. What the hell? And
Mhm.
he was like, oh, usually it's about 1 out of 100. So I've just written that many. And I was like, totally. There is something about that is that simple, which is
Interesting. Yeah,
if
just
you're
it's like
willing
a
to just
numbers
show up,
game almost.
if you're willing to show up and let go, it kind of like lets you be a little bit more relaxed. That like my job isn't to write a smash hit. That doesn't actually help anyone if that's your thought process
Mhm.
heading in. You do want to know, like, oh, I love to study. Like I just listened to the One Republic album yesterday, and and I'm really listening from like all right, what are you doing?
Right.
How are you doing this? And when I sometimes it's not super relaxing to listen to pop music for me right now because that's where my brain usually goes.
Mhm.
And sometimes there's songs that are so like I don't know that just take you out of that, and those are amazing. My daughter loves right now. She's really into Michael Jackson, and it's been fascinating to like re-listen to that. She's
That's
4, and every
cool.
time we get in the car, she's like, "Beat it, let's go!" And listening back, it's such an awesome blend of complexity and super simple. And so sometimes I like to just turn on jazz and not have to worry or think about any of it.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. Do you
Now,
remember
do you
showing
do you write as well?
I don't. I did radio for a long time. That was my kind of I love music as a growing up as a huge fan, but I'm not very good. I could play guitar and just it
Great,
never worked out for me, but this was
fantastic,
my in to hang out with cool people and people
dude.
that
Of
have
course,
succeeded.
of
So I did
course.
radio and this, so that's kind of my career path. I'm,
That's
I'm
great.
curious, like with songwriting and writing songs, and do you remember showing them to your parents? Like, were you like, hey,
Yeah.
I have this song, can you help me out? Or like, were you
Yeah.
nervous showing them?
Um, yeah. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. I remember showing them and they would give very good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom saying things like, there's you're not doing a good job of making it clear what the most important thing is here. And being like, oh, it's like there's a lot of chords here and there's a lot of words and there's not a lot of clarity to what I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to feel. And
Interesting.
we were all words at my house. It was like
Mm-hmm.
all words, and even getting started, I didn't necessarily feel like my voice was going to do it alone. Like
Really?
I was pretty clear. I have other friends. Yeah, like you listen to like a Sam Smith, and you're like, oh yeah, your voice is going to do it, and you can
Right.
actually get away with. Like sometimes I'll hear Bruno Mars or Sam Smith or some of these like huge voices. They literally can sing lyrics and get away with them that other people can't sing
Sure.
because it's like the part they're playing is a different part. And so I kind of could tell pretty early on that like I I now think I have a great voice and I've like worked really hard at it and it does exactly what I want it to do and it's beautiful. But starting out looking at the competition in the field, it was like that's not the thing that's going to set me apart. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to write these songs and they're gonna have to do something to you.
Right.
And my voice is gonna support that, but it's gonna be the song that makes this thing work. Yeah.
But they did. I mean, just having
Yeah.
such a uplifting lyrics and songs. I mean, even from the get go. I mean, "Keep Your
Yeah.
Head Up" was so huge, and it's such a positive like song where a lot of people go to the very negative, depressing, outlet, and yours was like one like polar opposite of that.
Yeah. That's kind of I think it's probably for everyone in every way, but I do think it's really hard to write uplifting music that isn't cheesy.
Right.
And
It is.
I don't totally know why that is, but it's hard. If you just play a major chord or you play a minor chord, the minor chord's cooler right off the jump. It's just
Hmm.
cooler. And so that's also a numbers game. Is I'm just someone who will take like a ton of cracks at it till it
Okay.
feels authentic. Getting to authenticity with happier music, I think, is really hard,
Mhm.
especially if you're not someone who's going to like. I'm not like a fuck boy. That's easier, I think. If you can
Right.
hold a red solo cup and sing happy, it starts to have at least a little bit of like edge, but I'm not like I'm a Baha'i. I don't drink alcohol. I waited until marriage to have sex. And so there's all the like getting to authentic while still uplifting your spirit uh, can be really dicey.
Sure.
There's like a lot of pitfalls along the way. And so when you do get it, a song like Keep Your Head Up, I think a lot of what it is is realizing that life is hard and most of the time when you're trying to pull people up it's because of pain, so pain usually is the grounding factor to an
Hmm.
uplifting song. So a song like Keep Your Head Up is like, yeah, my life is really hard right now. My mom, like behind those lyrics is my mom just died, I don't have any money, and I'm out on the street every day just street performing and
Right. You
trying
were
to like
busking, weren't you, prior
i'm
to?
I'm trying to survive. And so that is the true emotion behind this song. And then from that place, saying, but you got to keep your head up.
Right.
That starts to be like, oh, I can get with that. That's cool, you know. And it's
But
funny because that leads into but even so, I've always had this dance of like, if I'm not gonna hold the red solo cup and I'm not gonna like allude to something sexually, am I actually cool? And that's what this new single I love about
mhm.
is like I genuinely have reached a place where I care less. I can't say I don't care at all, but like it used to be like way high, go to a setting, have a Diet Coke in my hand, and apologize for myself the whole night. And like always trying to fit into whatever the version of rock star is supposed to be. It's a little bit antiquated at this point, but when I was coming in like 10 years ago, it still was a little bit like, what's my role here? Okay, I've just been thrust in the scene. I have this big song, and then I had an even bigger one, and I had another
Mhm.
one, and it's like what is my who am I? What's my role? Because me being myself doesn't really fit in this zone
Right. And that
of like
mold of
rock star.
like rock star.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that being very hard. I don't drink either, but it would be like you're just totally surrounded by it all the time and people
Ye-
partying and this. And it's like, okay, like
Totally.
it's not
And
really my scene.
the deeper you go, it's like everybody feels that. Even the
Mhm.
people that are like supposedly cookie cutter for exactly the right reasons, they feel that for a totally different reason. So it doesn't make me special by any means. I think we all
Right.
somehow feel like outsiders in our place.
Mhm.
But this new one, Damn It Feels Good to Be Me, is just like really relaxing into like, though this is the piece like the people that come to me want that from me.
Mhm.
Like very clearly, the people that come to my shows, they want this version of grounded optimism. They want these songs that pick them up. Um, so stop trying, dude. Like stop. That's like the big lesson of I think most art is like stop trying. And I've done. You have days where you win that battle, and then you have days where you don't. Like it's not an easy. It's not as easy as like just be yourself. I think that's such a hard thing to tell an artist.
Oh yeah. It's the
That's
hardest thing there is.
that
That even for
that's
radio, they're like, when you're first starting out, they're like, just be you. You're the best version of you. It's like, how do I like because you're trying to emulate whatever people are doing and what your heroes are doing. And then they're like, well, that's
yeah.
them. That's not you. And you're like, how do I do this?
There's a lot of work. I always say that like when someone says be just be you, it sounds like it's very easy, but that's the top of the mountain.
Mhm.
Like you have to grind to figure out what that is. And I like to
Right.
say that as much as possible because yes, the answer still is be you, but do all the weird things and try and experiment to figure out what the hell that actually is. And I think that oh, I just heard this awesome quote the other day, I forget. Tension when you feel tension, it's usually because you're trying too hard. And when you feel relaxation, it means that you're a little bit more in your center, which I think
Interesting.
is probably true.
Uh-huh.
But you gotta experiment and try stuff.
Yeah.
It's a whole dance. But there is something about my life right now where there's less like trying, and
That's
that's great.
good.
It's
That's
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you say it, I mean, this title of the song says it perfectly. Damn, it feels good to be me.
Yeah.
Right.
Like really settling into the idea that my music is not for everyone.
Mhm.
Ugh, that's super liberating. If there's any artists or songwriters out there, like, yeah, it's not for everyone. You know, I had this. I was doing this thing where I was like writing little text messages and voice notes to different artists, and just
Mhm.
like trying to. I love trying to encourage people to go after what they're doing. And I had this idea around olives, where like I don't like olives. I never like the taste of them. I never have. And I just don't like categorically. I think they're disgusting. I can't understand why anybody else would like olives.
Mhm.
So if you put like a lot of like time and care and love into making the perfect olive, I'm still gonna hate it. So you should never worry about me.
Uh-huh.
You shouldn't be trying to get me. You should go after the people that already like enjoy that taste and that flavor. And there's something that's really freeing about that idea that you can go like, oh, I'm not for everyone. And yes, there's going to be people that love what I do and people that hate what I do. And I just got to continue to figure out what my favorite piece of this is and keep putting it out, you know.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
seems like a simple idea that is a little bit hard to get to.
Sure. I mean, your optimism is very, I imagine it's very hard to get through. I'm in my me just looking out as an outsider, just I mean, keep your head up and even, honey, I'm good. All your songs are very uplifting. And I love what you did on was your last tour where you had your meet and greet people kind of
Yeah,
talk about the hardest thing that they've been through. And you put it in that music video. And it's just so beautifully done. And it works perfect with that song that you did.
super
Like,
cool.
like
Yeah,
talk,
kind of going back to the idea of pain
yeah.
and what the purpose of pain is and what the purpose of struggle is. And if you really do think that it's there to make you grow, then that to me is grounded optimism. If the purpose of my mom passing away uh, is to like show me true empathy for other people,
Hmm.
like I was just a like fairly happy individual, pretty good at sports, fairly popular, didn't have anything that like really threw off my center. And then my mom passed away, and I got to really understand like, oh, people are hurting really bad around me all the time. and it's like I got goggles, like empathy goggles from that experience. Um, Knowing, just seeing the world that way, that what I go through is here to make me stronger for something else. That is a way. That's like a very simple, grounded optimism. So, like you're alluding to, if nobody else saw it, the meet and greet was everybody come tell me the worst thing that happened to you and what it forced you to turn into, and
Mhm.
it was crazy. I'll never be the same. I did it. It was like 40 cities every night.
Wow.
You'd hear the craziest shit that happened to someone,
Hmm.
and then what it forced them to turn into in the positive, and it was just so amazing, and like my like trains your mind to see life that way. If you can be like heading into life when all the bad things are happening and see them as training you to be something better, I can get on board with that. Those are like uplifting songs that I'm into. I want to
Hmm.
hear, you know.
Yeah. I mean, how did you come up with that idea? I mean, how liberating for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, so we knew this song "Wish You Pain" was really special, but it needed like a little bit of explaining.
Uh-huh.
It came it came from this quote. Like I said, I'm a Baha'i. There's a Baha'i quote that just talks about like um, the captain who's been in the most storms is the best captain,
Hmm.
and the tree that has been like um, cut is the one that grows the tallest. And then it says like funny it is that I love you and still am happy that you have sorrow, because that's like what makes you grow.
Hmm.
So between that quote and then of course my manager, who's my deep collaborator, Ben Singer, uh, we were just like trying to figure out how to make the tour special, and he was like, "What if you wrote a song every night on the spot with using someone's story?" And that kind of bled into the meet and greet. So we did this meet and greet, and then we'd literally pull someone out of the crowd, have them share their deepest pain, and then we had a spoken word artist, and I would write a hook, and the spoken word artist would do a specific song for each person every night, and it
That's
was
so cool.
awesome. Yeah, sometimes they were incredible, sometimes they bombed. It was awesome. This is art. Yeah,
Yeah, wow, what a cool. And that was right before the pandemic happened when you were doing that tour?
yeah, that was right before the pandemic.
Oh my gosh. So then the pandemic hits and how do you keep, your optimism up?
Man, step one is I didn't. Like honestly, step one,
Uh-huh.
I just like got completely rocked and went into a little bit of a depression. Got a therapist.
Hmm.
Just did a lot of like digging around to figure out what I'm like super extroverted guy, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play shows. Super upset. And then kind of like realized that there was a bunch of work to be done inside myself, you know,
Hmm.
and a lot of songs came out of that. Kind of
Hmm.
like if you're getting too if something an event like this throws you off this hard, then you're getting too much of your worth from outside of yourself. That's what the big lesson that I took from it.
I
And so
like
a lot of
that.
these songs are kind of about this self-love journey, which listen, I know that I picked the ones that are the hardest fucking ones to make cool. Self-love is like not cool. It's not. That like but I know that it's real and sincere. And so then I go about it and start chiseling and start writing to try and figure out like, man, this is true to me. So there's a way to get this out that will resonate with people. It might just take me writing the song 20 times. It might just take the right angle. Like I got to get through this door or like I check on every way on how I can get in because it's a true idea. It's a true thought. And then you have songs like Damn It Feels Good to Be Me, which feels like
Hmm.
kind of rebellious and bombastic and really, really fun. And
Hmm.
then, there's another one that's going to come called Love Myself, which is like a little bit more the other side of like, shit, man, when I really look at it, I don't know why it feels weird. I don't know how much I love myself. Like, really taking a look at that was a little bit crazy. Um, yeah, just like some introspective stuff that I think we all kind of went through during the pandemic. When you
Hmm.
can't do the thing that you gather a lot of your self worth from, then where do you get it from? That was a really hard pill to swallow.
I can imagine. Was this record just did you have just some downtime and you just started writing the album over the course of the last year and a half?
Some of it was started before the pandemic, and then a lot of it we did quarantine writing camp with some of my favorite writers.
How was
Um,
that?
Such a cool way to do it, man. Like for me right now, to go in for 2 weeks and just every day write for 6 or 7 hours with people that you think are incredible was
Hmm.
just so needed, especially in the pandemic for my mental sanity to just
Sure.
get to go be super creative and create a lot of a lot of the great art. It was really, really, really necessary for me.
That is awesome. Have you had a chance to perform since the pandemic?
Yeah, we have like little pockets here and there that make sense, that feel safe enough to go play a show
Mhm.
outdoors or something like that. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, I could imagine what
Have you
energy
been
is.
to a show?
I have not. I'm actually going to Bonnaroo this weekend, so that'll be my
Oh,
first kind of
sick.
experienced. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen a show.
It's uh it's crazy. It's like I always say that being a songwriter and a performer is like you're the chef in the back coming up with a creation.
Mhm.
And then you need the other. I mean, for me, I need the other side where you go and you lay the plate in front of someone and you kind of get to see whether it's hitting them right or not.
Mhm.
And to have such a long period where you didn't get to do that, um, I don't know. I always talk about touring and not touring is they're both hard and fun, but it's as though you're just standing on your left foot. And then after a while, you're like, okay, all right. Then you move over your right foot and you tour for too long. I need to go home. And then the balance of it is what makes it work. And for me, I need that. I need both sides of it.
Mhm.
And so we actually last weekend we got to play a show and just having experiences like my song "Don't Give Up on Me." I was about to play it and I saw a girl in the front row who had a shaved head and I could kind of get a sense that she had cancer.
Mhm.
And I went up and said like, can I dedicate this song to you? And she said yes. And then she came on stage. And these moments that are so much bigger than yourself or bigger than any sort of business transaction or bigger than they're just that those moments from live shows I desperately miss.
Mhm.
I desperately miss those. It's so great to even have little appetizers of them every once in a while.
I love that. And I love how optimistic you are, how positive you are, because I'm sure that's was even a hurdle to get over. Just being that people, it's hard to like be positive because I feel like people always want to knock you down, and then the fact that you're just everything you do is very optimistic. I
Yeah.
just
I
credit
my
you like
last
how crazy that. I mean, how awesome that is.
my last record was titled Naive. And the idea of that was basically that when you are optimistic, a lot of times you're misconstrued as being naive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've dealt with that my whole life, and I'm kind of again I'm like at peace with it at this point. I know I understand how I will be perceived
Right.
sometimes because the world is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see if you're having a bad day, and Andy says it's good to be alive right now, or something to that effect. It's like, yeah, shut the fuck up, dude.
Right. Or it's like, how can you be happy all the time? Like you get that. I'm sure you get that quite a bit. Like, oh,
Yeah,
like you can't, that's not, it's almost like you're faking it because you are being optimistic. Like you said, it's, you perfectly nailed the authenticity with it all. Like it's hard to be authentic and positive for people to see it. You know what I mean?
for people to feel it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. It's like a 1 minute poem that I would start my shows with. This
Mm-hmm.
explains it the best way about naive is the idea that it is no longer impressive to me to watch these melancholy documentaries exposing that behind the things we buy, we love, or eat is a bunch of shitty people run by money, sex, and greed. I'm not impressed with the focus, though what they say it might be true. We ignore the beauty of the forest, obsessing on low hanging fruit. What about my soul? What about this life? What about the infinite space in the sky? What about the galaxies of possibilities swimming in my daughter's eyes? I've been labeled positive, optimistic, the guy that makes the happy music. And while I'm flattered with these words, come with an aftertaste of stupid. As if smart people are the ones who used to smile but learned their lesson. As if the scientific truth of reality is that it's depressing. I do not agree. So if it's stupid to see the good in everything, then hell yeah, call me naive. That is like, I would start there,
I
right?
love that. That is beautiful. Thank you so much.
I would start there, and then we'd like go. I would like go into the crowd with the lights down, and the spotlight would come on, and I'd stand up, and I would just, and then I have a song called "Naive," which is around that idea, and that would start the whole vibe. And I think the that's still coming from a place of like rebellious, like I don't care. if you don't get me,
Mhm.
starting to get there, and then damn it feels good to be me is even more comfortable. It's
Mhm.
even more like, no, no, seriously, this is a party. Like I'm so happy to not be carrying baggage around this idea of trying to be cool or being thirsty or trying to fit into a certain place, and really lounging back in with like a snuggie and just being like, this is where I'm at.
With
And
a
I think
snuggie.
people really enjoy it. I think people are going to enjoy this. So that's really fun.
I love it. And is that kind of the vibe of the whole record?
Yeah, there's definitely some more of this, like, I don't even know what style you call it. It's like it's just weird and wild, and I had really was enjoying a lot of horns.
Hmm.
Like my daughter's name's Louisiana, and my wife and her mom is from Louisiana.
Oh, I
And so
love
we
that.
listened to like a ton of Louis Prima. Bath time is all Louis Prima and Louis Armstrong, and I don't know. I those are references that I can't say this music sounds like, but whatever that is coming through me sounds like this. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And thank you
Cool.
so much, Andy, for talking with me. I love the two songs that you put out, thus far, which are coming on the record.
Dude,
And
thank you.
and thank you so much. I
I
have one more
appreciate it.
question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Um, there's like I take this so seriously and want to pack the best punch if there's aspiring artists listening. Um, it's you. It's all gonna be you. Like no one's coming to save you, to discover you. That you might have a partner that comes to work with you, but in every situation, make sure that someone else gets more than you get. That's how movement goes. So like when I was a street performer, I have to deliver so hard for you in some way that you're getting more than the $10 you're giving me, uh, because you like what I did. And so when I go to a radio station, um, I need to make sure that I left you with a performance or a feeling or a sense that is so much more than like think of how high the bar is right now for how much music is being put out. Um, when was the last time you heard a song and then had to go look it up? You have to leave. What that feeling is that you've given someone something that really affected them and made them take an action. And to get there is just a ton of hard work and a lot of, I don't know, almost like artistic selflessness to just be someone that was always down to go the extra mile, do the extra thing, write the extra song. And then so that's like the hustle aspect. And then the artistic aspect is just as, even like we said, it's an impossible task, but try to be yourself as much as possible. Those two things together, I think will create motion in the way that you're looking for.